You know, over the last number of years, there have been a bastion of new Boston Bruins fans that not say they don't know anything about the Bruins past, but when you hear about this guy, they're kind of shaking their head and they're saying, you know, you're telling me this guy dedicated 82 years to the Boston franchise. Well, I think he was born a Boston Bruin, and the only reason why he wasn't a Boston Bruin, what they call player, coach, and GM before is because, well, he was too busy in the cradle or too busy going to grade school. But as soon as he became of age, as we say, he was white and gold all the way. So today we're going to have to be talking about a player I consider a top 20 skater of all time in the NHL that won cups for Boston in their dynasty era of the late 30s, early 40s, helped with their dynasty era of the early 70s, and again, it was an ambassador on all levels for Boston from Beantown all the way across the globe, no matter where Bruins fans are found, be it a hut in Tibet or the top of a mountain or the bottom of a valley. We have to be talking, of course, of Milt Schmidt. Now, Milton Conrad Schmidt, born in Kitchener, where else, a good German area, was a pro hockey center, was also coach of the Bruins and GM, again mostly for the Bruins of the NHL in their glory years. Now, he was a member of the famous Kraut line, we'll get into that in a second, and again elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame 51 years ago. 50 years ago, excuse me. So I said 51. 50 years ago. I always get my dates mixed up. In 2017, Schmidt again was named one of the 100 greatest NHL players in league history as part of their 100th anniversary campaign to salute again the top skaters that ever took to the rink in the major pro. Now, Schmidt's early years were spent in Kitchener, where he attended the great King Edward Public School. In high school, he briefly attended Kitchener-Waterloo Collegiate and Vocational School, but dropped out at age 14 in order to work to support his family. Now, his father had become too ill to work regularly. He took a job at a shoe factory at the heavy wages of 18 cents per hour, which is comparable to about $3.40 in 2020 dollars. Now, he claimed at the time he knew the value of the dollar, and that was his mantra for many years, because when you're underpaid for so long like he was, you know what money's worth. Now, he continued playing junior hockey with the Empires in Kitchener and the Kitchener Green Shirts. Now, Schmidt was also a childhood friend of fellow Hall of Famers Woody DeMart and Bobby Bauer, who were the other skaters on the Kraut line. At the age of 20, playing for the Boston Bruins AHL farm team, the vaunted Providence Reds, Schmidt was invited to try out for the St. Louis Cardinals pro baseball team, but knew himself well enough from his youth baseball experience that while he could hit the ball out of the park, he would strike out many more times than hitting home runs. Didn't hurt Dave Kingman, but, you know, what can you do? Now, Schmidt played junior hockey with Dumart in Bauer in Kitchener before the rights were all acquired by the Bruins in the great year of 1935. After playing a final year of junior hockey in Kitchener and half a year with the Reds, Schmidt was called up to the Bruins during the 37 season, and he quickly proved himself to be a hard-nosed center, a skilled stick handler, a smooth playmaker, and a rough-and-tumble guy. Didn't take any crap. Now, Schmidt and Bauer Dumart were teamed up together for the Bruins as well. Again, the Kraut line were considered one of the best threesomes in NHL history. Strong, dependable, good on defense, go on offense, and they stuck together for almost 15 full seasons. Now, they were a key ingredient to the Bruins' success as they rampaged to the regular season title and a hard-fought Stanley Cup victory in 1939. The following season, Schmidt's star rose in heavy prominence as he led the league in scoring and guided the Bruins to another first-place finish and the third most goals in team history to that date. Now, like I said, this was the Boston Dynasty. I'll tell you why. Even though he didn't win the Cup in 1940, 41 saw Schmidt spearhead the Bruins in their second Cup win in 3 years. However, the powerhouse brown and gold were decimated by World War II the following year as Schmidt, Bauer, and Dumart enlisted in the Canadian military, and the superstar American goalie Frank Brismick enlisted with the United States Coast Guard. Now, there was some question if he could have won 5-6 or 6-7. I think they could because the Montreal Canadiens were not as strong as Boston was with these players with the count line in the lineup. And it just happened that Montreal took advantage of Boston not being there to basically, take to what they called the first of the Richard titles. Now, the Craig Long also found success playing hockey for the Ottawa RCF team by winning the Allen Cup before heading overseas. Schmidt, Bauer, and Dumart ultimately missed 3 full productive NHL seasons due to their service in the war. Now Schmidt returned for the beginning of the 46th season. He resumed his starting ways and finished 4th in league scoring in 47. Eventually named captain in 51, Schmidt won the Hart Trophy as the league's most valuable player that year. Now, in the later part of his career, he became friends with journalist Leo Monahan, who traveled with the team on overnight train rides. One train ride, Schmidt recalled that Leo was in a berth above me and I was down below. Throughout the night, he told me he did not move for fear. He would do something that would keep me awake. Don't get the captain angry, as we like to say. Now, Schmidt eventually retired as a player partway through the 55 season to take over head coaching duties from the legendary Lynn Patrick. Now, Schmidt coached the Bruins up to the 66th season with a 1.5 year hiatus. He was also Boston's assistant GM. Now, after coaching the Bruins for 11 seasons, Schmidt was promoted to the GM position in 67, just as the league expanded to 12 teams, what they call the expansion 12. Schmidt proved to be a great architect in the new era of the NHL, acquiring and drafting several key players to build a Bruins team that won 2 more cups in 70 and 72. Of course, his biggest deal was the biggest steal, people think, in trade history, as he acquired Phil Esposito, Ken Hodge, and the great Fred Stanfield, a star in my podcast channel, by the way, from the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Pitt Martin, Gilles Marat, and goalie Jack Norris. Now, after his long and loyal career in the Bruins organization, Schmidt left the team to become the first GM of the expansion of Washington Capitals for the start of the 75 season. Unfortunately for Schmidt, the Capitals set a benchmark in futility that still stands as an NHL record today, as a new franchise finished the year with a minuscule 21 points in 74-75, with a 8-67-5 record in an 18-team league. Now, final NHL totals: 229 goals, 575 points in 776 games, 49 points in 86 playoff contests with 24 goals. Career coaching record: never won a Stanley Cup but lost in 2 cup finals to Montreal in 57 and 58. Now, as a lot of people know, in the early 1960s were rough on Boston. He missed the playoffs from 1960 to 66. But boys, when he went to the GM side, he did well. His time with Washington, he went 2-6 in 75, and 3-28-5 in 36 games in 76 before he was let go. Now, again, inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1961, and his number 15 jersey was retired by the Bruins. After his retirement from hockey management, he remained involved with the Bruins through their alumni team and as manager of the Boards and Blades Club at the Boston Garden. Now, on October 6, 2010, the Bruins celebrated Schmidt's 75 years with the team during one of the greatest nights in Garden history, Milt Schmidt Night. On this night, he received 2 commemorative Stanley Cup miniatures to represent the 2 cups he had brought to the club, plus he personally raised his number to the rafters inside TD Garden. Now, he was the last surviving member of both the Bruins' 39 and 41 Stanley Cup title squads. Schmidt was also the last living NHL player to play in the 1930s and the last to have played against the Montreal Maroons, a team that folded in 1938. Now, on October 20, 2016, Schmidt, along with Bobby Orr, dropped the ceremonial puck at the Bruins' first home game of the season. Now, Schmidt unfortunately passed away after a stroke on January 4, 2017, in a retirement facility in Westwood, Massachusetts, at the age of 98. At the time of his passing, he was the oldest living former NHL player and the last living player to play in the AHL's inaugural season. Following Schmidt's death, Chick Webster became the oldest living NHL player, and Schmidt is buried alongside his beloved wife at the Highland Cemetery in Dover, Massachusetts. Now, upon hearing of Schmidt's death, Commissioner Gary Bettman issued the following statement. It would be a challenge to find anyone who took greater pride in being a Boston Bruin than Schmidt did, be it as a player, an executive, or an ambassador over the 80-plus years he served the franchise, the city of Boston, and the NHL. His respect for the game was matched by his humility and was mirrored by the great respect with which his opponents and generations of Bruins players treated him through the years. We in the media loved him because he was always good for an important quote, because if Milt Schmidt felt you were doing a good job covering hockey, it was like the touch of God to say, keep up the good work. I know of colleagues at the Globe and different media in Boston would always say, what did Milt think about this article? Because, there was a lot of articles in the paper were critical of Boston's, underachieving years, especially after Orr left, especially, when how Cam Neely was, not say misdiagnosed, but the injury that he suffered. A lot of people felt that the Bruins left a lot of cups on the table because they were always 1 or 2 players away. Edmonton had stopped them for a while, Montreal as well. There could have been more cups. When he finally got back to the Stanley Cup, I think the person who probably celebrated the most was Milt Schmidt, because he knows how hard it is to win the ultimate trophy in sports. Now, awards and achievements, very lengthy. A Stanley Cup champion 4 times, 39-41 as a player, 17-72 as a GM. Again, at the time of his retirement, 4th in NHL history in points and 3rd in assists. All-Star team, first team, 40-47-51. Second All-Star team, 52. AHL All-Star game appearances, 47-48, 51-52. Lester Patrick Trophy, contributions to hockey, 96. Last active NHL player who played during the 30s. Again, number 27 at the Hockey News list of the 100 greatest hockey players. I would give him 19 or 20. That's just me. I think some of the players that were ahead of him were a little bit overrated. Hart Trophy winner 1951, NHL scoring champion 1940, and again, January 2017, part of the first group of players to be named one of the 100 greatest NHL players in history. Again, the official list through the NHL for the 100th anniversary. So, ladies and gentlemen, what's kind of important here to remember, the amount of respect a player gets, they would say, well, imagine if Milt Schmidt would have played with Montreal, or Milt Schmidt would have played with Toronto, or with Detroit. Can you imagine if Schmidt and the Krautline were playing in Detroit in those key years of the late 40s, early 50s? Detroit was loaded, but you can never have too many players like the players on the Krautline, and you would complement each other. If one player couldn't score, the other one would. And I've been very lucky, ladies and gentlemen. I never saw the Krautline play, but I know what works. I grew up with the French Connection, ladies and gentlemen, and the Montreal Canadian lines, and even the Toronto lines as well. And Gretzky, the Gretzky lines he played on with Curry and Messi, sometimes Anderson. You're only good as your number 1 line. And with Connor McDavid not winning, it's not his fault, because the legacy he needs to be a Stanley Cup champion, it's learned. Milt Schmidt there for a while, like I said, there was years and years and years as a GM where Boston, again, never made the playoffs, but he never gave up for that later goal. So how many teams ladies and gentlemen, that lost 5 or 6 straight years, not make the playoffs, and then have a dynasty? Because it's always in the background. When you're a Boston Bruins fan or follower, there's always a potential that they're going to do well. The closest team to the ghost of the form is the Boston Bruins, because they've done it in different generations, they've done it in different ways. They've taken players from other teams that were middling or semi-stars and made them superstars through the Stanley Cup runs. So anytime Boston wins or doesn't win, it doesn't take away the amount of excellence the squad has had because of the Milt Schmidts and the Tiny Thompsons, the Ray Borks, the Cam Neelys. I'm not a Boston Bruins fan, but I respect them, because to be great, you need a great opponent. And Duran needed Leonard, like Leonard needed Duran, Joe Frazier, Ali. I know it's kind of weird. You look at Atlanta Braves, Toronto Blue Jays, Red Sox, Yankees, the old Brooklyn Dodgers, and the New York Yankees, the classic, yin and yang. And the Boston Bruins, when they win, they earned it. There's no cheap Stanley Cups in Boston Bruins history, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing but excellence of execution, like an old friend of mine used to say. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our Boston Bruins and Vintage podcasts on the NHL, let us know with a like, comment, or subscribe. Anybody listening to this for the first time, thanks for dropping in. This podcast channel continues to grow. No monetization. Response from the public. It's a tribute to the many readers that I've had in my sports editor career, my print career. It's a tribute. If you have any requests or comments, let me know. Always appreciate it. And don't expect me to not take requests seriously, because I know how important these players are to the people. Why would you request something unless this person meant something to you? If Milt Schmidt meant something to you, if you're listening to this is for you. Have a good day. Bye.